We think of a revival movement as something that comes along and gives new life to an older, established church. That is not the experience of the church in Madagascar. The church was still developing in Madagascar when a new movement began around 1895. Revival is not the word that comes to mind, nor is it the word that the people of Madagascar, the Malagasy, use. They talk about a Fifohazana, or literally an awakening. This is significant even today because the majority of new Christian believers comes from the work of this movement. They are awakened to the joy of the gospel. In Madagascar, there have been 4 main branches of this movement, each started by a significant leader, which was strong enough to survive the death of the leader and indeed flourish. Each of the branches is known by the name of the place where it is headquartered, where its main camp is found. When we think of a camp, we think of young people coming for a summer holiday, but that is not what is meant here. Instead, this is an encampment of people of God bound together to do God's work, usually preaching and teaching, caring for the sick and especially the mentally ill and demon-possessed. Some people will live permanently at the encampment, which more resembles a small town. While there, many care for the sick, sometimes dedicating their entire lives to the care of 1 or 2 mentally ill folk. There are very few other services for those with mental illness in Madagascar, so that these awakened folk do something that is nothing short of amazing. All of this started with a man by the name of Rainishualambo, who was born around 1844 and grew up the son of a local king's guard. When his own father died, he was taken into the king's household and learned his father's trade, that of defending and speaking for the king. It was a great education and made him a good public speaker. When he was in his 50s, Madagascar was under enormous pressure politically and internationally. The French seized the island in 1895 and, after a brief war, exiled the queen and installed a governor-general. The area where Rainishualambo lived was called Betsileo and was well south of the capital. Under the queen, they were a vassal state. Now they were dominated by a new overlord. Taxes had always been high. The central government was enfeebled by the French and so could not provide protection from bandits in the area. Crops failed, and to make matters worse, several plagues descended upon the region. People were becoming more and more impoverished. Rainishualambo had experience with Christians through his work as a spokesperson for the local monarch. Many of the emissaries from the Queen in the capital were Christian, and he knew of Christians in the area from the London Missionary Society, which today is either the largest or second largest Christian denomination on the island, a member of the World Alliance of Reformed Churches. People convinced Rainishualambo that if he converted, he would be a natural at leading a congregation. So he converted and went to Bible school for training. The only problem was that he couldn't earn enough money this way to support himself and his family. As a result, he returned to his previous practice of divination and traditional healing, which was more in line with pagan practice. Disease and poverty finally afflicted Rainishualambo too. He lost everything, and given his sores, few could stand to be near him. The smell was overwhelming. One night, he heard the voice of Jesus tell him to get up and throw all his idols and medicines into the latrine, and he would be healed. He did, and he was. So excited was he that he gathered others with similar experiences of miracle healing and formed an association. Together they called themselves the Disciples of the Lord and came up with a simple rule for their way of life. Rainishualambu's world was very much like the world Jesus knew in the first century, with multiple overlords, disease, debt, and poverty. He understood Jesus in a way few before him had. After a few years and with training, Rainishualambu sent out messengers, originally called apostles, to other places on the island, sharing in simple terms the good news. It was highly effective. Rainishualambu died in 1905, but his movement continues to grow, and its headquarters are in the town of Shuatanana, the name by which his movement is currently known. If you ever want to know what true hospitality feels like, visit them. You will be amazed.